All right, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining me today for Tim at 10. Today we're going to go over the proposed rule changes from childcare licensing. Excuse me, sorry. I don't know about y'all, but I was so super excited to see these proposed rule changes come out. We've been waiting on this for over a year now, and I'm very, very pleased with them. I don't think I've ever been so excited and happy with something from licensing. So we're going to go over this today. There's three main parts that we need to talk about: physical activities, screen time, and nutrition. So that's what this is basically all about right here. And so if you were able to print off the proposed rule changes, we're going to be going over pages 30 through 65 today. Page 30 through 65. If you didn't get to print off the proposed rule changes, it's okay. You can just listen along and kind of take it all in. All right, so like I said, we've been waiting for over a year for these rule changes to come out. This is all part of Senate Bill 952 that was passed by our legislators last spring, all right? And any of y'all that attended my weekend mini conference last year or this spring, we talked about some of the pieces of legislation that were passed, and we talked about 952. So we knew this was coming, all right? It just took licensing a little while to get the draft rules together, which is normal, all right? But here they are. They're only giving us until July 1st to give feedback on these rule changes, so you're going to have to act fast if you want to give any public comment. And I'll tell you how to give public comment here at the end of the webinar. It's also in the email that everyone received from Childcare Licensing, or the link that I have posted on our Facebook page. But basically, you'll email any feedback that you have. Now, I am going to warn y'all, okay? I've been working with, licensing and government relations for over 15 years now. Typically, when a rule change is made due to a piece of legislation, there's very little change that is made to the proposed rules, because licensing had to draft these rules directly from the piece of legislation that was passed and signed by the governor. They may change a little bit of the wording here or there, but as far as the content and the requirements, don't expect much change, because they have to follow our legislators' direction right there. The other thing that, those of you that came to see me last year or this year, I've recommended that you get your hands on this book right here. And this is the National Health and Safety Performance Standard Guidelines for Early Care and Education Programs. It's a really big book, but this is an amazing resource for you and your program. I actually was going online to find a link to get this book for somebody, and I found the PDF version that you can download and print for free. So I don't know if it's supposed to be up there or if it's an accident or what, but I posted that on Facebook right before this webinar. So if you've got a really good printer, you can print this entire book. Or I bought mine off of Amazon, and it's a really nice, pretty book right there. The reason why I'm showing this to you now is that all of the drafted rules that we're going to talk about today came from this book, all right? Pretty much word for word came from this book. And so we even knew that was part of the bill, Senate Bill 952, that they were to use this book to draft this language. So, but off topic right here, I've been using this book to update a lot of my policies and a lot of my processes. This is like golden right here. So make sure you grab a copy of that book right there. All right. And like I said, Amazon, I think it was like maybe $75, something like that, but it was well worth it. All right, so hopefully everyone has their rule changes printed off, and we're going to kind of go over these. Now, on page 1 is where it basically tells you that the purpose of these rule changes were due to Senate Bill 952 that was passed in our 2019 legislative session. All right, so that's what that is right there. But if you go over to page 30 is where we're going to start. All right. Page 30 is 746-123, which is terms and definitions. So they've made a couple little changes and added some terms and definitions that are very adequate to what we're going to be seeing right here. So that's awesome. There's a couple of, I noticed that there were a couple of changes that have nothing to do with physical activity, screen time, and nutrition, but they did a little bit of cleanup on a few other items. So, for example, on page 31, they updated the definition of CEUs, that 1 CEU equals 10 clock hours of training. That's really not relevant to our topic today, but, you know, there it is. I see here on Facebook Live someone just reposted the link, the Amazon link for the Caring for Our Children. That was very helpful. Thank you. And then, like I said, I had posted the PDF right before this webinar started. On page 32, again, just some language cleanup on attendance at instructor-led trainings. They just added that that's an individual or individuals, plural, that's doing that training. So again, not really relevant to the 3 topics that we're here for today, but just a little bit of cleanup right there. All right, so on page 34 is the first biggie. All right, and that's going to be on number 37, the definition of natural environment. They just did a little bit of cleanup right there and added an example. So a better explanation of natural environment. And then 39 is your brand new definition, and that's going to be the definition of physical activity, which a physical activity moderate is going to be levels of activity for a child that are that intensifies faster than a slower walk, but still allow the child to talk easily. All right. Moderate physical activity increases the child's heart rate and breathing rate. Okay, so we do a lot of that in the classroom already. Then we go on to 40, which is physical activity vigorous. All right. I kind of sort of was a little scared of that word at first, vigorous. That kind of sounds vigorous. But the more I was reading into this stuff and doing some research, I think they picked a good word. It's a great word to use. But at first it was kind of scary. But that's just, a more, repetitive physical movement for the child that uses large muscles, causing the child to breathe rapidly, and only enabling the child to speak in short phrases. So think about running on a treadmill. You're not going to be able to carry out a conversation when you're running on a treadmill. But you'll notice that we're going to talk about both moderate and vigorous physical activity and what's in here. I see on Facebook Live someone just said, can you please share what I'm reading from? Brandy, I posted that on Facebook right before this webinar started. So if you just go to the Facebook page and scroll down a little bit, you'll see the link right there. All right. They added number 41, the definition of a pre-K child. This has always been in the Texas Administrative Code, but somehow was left out of the minimum standards. So basically did a little bit of cleanup and got the definition of pre-K child into the definitions. All right, next big one is going to be on page 35. The page numbers might be off a little bit depending on, I don't know. I've noticed that too, that sometimes the page number. So I'm going to go to my standard number and whatnot for y'all. Definition 48, and I'm looking at my page 35. But at the very bottom, definition 48 is for screen time activity. So this is a new definition right here for us as well. An activity during which a child views media content on a cell phone or mobile phone, tablet, computer, television, video, film, or DVD screen screen time activities do not include video chatting with the child's family or assistive adaptive computer technology. I thought that was very, very interesting right there that they added in that video chatting with the child's family is not considered screen time. I'm wondering, I had told myself at the beginning of this Facebook Live that we would not talk about COVID at all. This would be a non-COVID training today. But as I was reading through some of this, I wonder if, during the COVID situation, if a couple of these proposed rule changes were adapted based on our current situation and what we think the situation will look like in the future. So I thought this one was very interesting with the video chatting with the child's family. I think it's a good ad. I'm happy with that ad right there. All right. So those are the terms and definitions that were either added or changed. The next thing we're going to talk about is under 746-501, and that's your operating policies. There is one very large policy that you're going to need to add to your manuals now. And I'm looking at my page 38, but it's number 18 on the list of policies that you must have in your operation. But you now must have, or with these proposed rule changes, a policy for promotion of indoor and outdoor physical activity that is consistent with the minimum standards right here. Your policy must include the benefits of physical activity and outdoor play, the duration of physical activity at your operation, both indoor and outdoors, the type of physical activity, either structured or unstructured, that children may engage in at your operation, the setting in which the physical activity will take place, the recommended clothing that children must wear when they're participating in physical activity, and a plan to ensure that physical activities take place when weather permits children from going outside. All right, so that kind of seems like a lot right there. And so, see, there y'all are. You are asking COVID-related questions, and that's not what we're talking about today. I'm going to go ahead and address that, though, even though it's off topic. Y'all, the 1 to 10 ratio thing was just a recommendation by the governor. That was never a requirement. It was a recommendation. So you do not have to adhere to a ratio of 10, nor will you be cited by licensing for that. And that's it for COVID. All right, let's get back to physical activity. So that's your policy. Now, here's my gift to you, okay? I have already drafted a policy to add to your manual to address number 18 right here. So if you go to my website, timthetrainer.com, and go to documents, all right, you can see a sample policy on physical activity, and it covers everything that's mentioned right here, all right? So that's my little gift to you. Now, disclaimer, that is a draft. It is a sample. It is a working document subject to change, but I put that together for y'all to kind of help you out. All right? Very good. Very good. Let's go over now to 746-2203. And 746-2203 is about your written activity plan that caregivers must follow. All right? And on my printout, this is page 41 of the proposed rule changes, but again, it may be different on your printout. All right. What activity plan must your caregivers have? It says your operation director or caregiver must develop a written activity plan that complies with the minimum standard. Nothing different right there. Besides that, they added operation director or caregiver. It says that the caregiver's responsibilities for the relevant group of children, and they must follow the plan. On your lesson plan, activity plan, daily schedule, calendar, whatever it is that you call it, all of those are fine. You need to make sure that you specify what age group of children the activity plan is for, and they need to be age appropriate and relevant to that age. I always, always, always recommend on your daily schedule, lesson plan, whatever it is that you call it in your world, to have a disclaimer at the bottom that says this schedule or this plan is subject to change based on the needs of the children. All right? Always make sure you've got that disclaimer on there somewhere, because y'all know that your lesson plan and your activity plans, they do change from time to time, depending on what's going on in the classroom or whatnot. You know, if you've got a group of toddlers down for circle time and you've got all of their attention and they're all engaged and they're all into it, don't stop. All right. You know, we're going to keep that going as long as we can. But you know, sometimes you sit down with a group of kids and it goes right down the toilet. So you've got to be ready to move on to the next thing. So having that disclaimer that, you know, your plan may change based on the needs of the classroom is very, very important. All right. So 746-2205 is going to talk about what must be included in your activity plan. There was a couple of little wording changes that were in there, nothing really major, but you see a couple of the wording things. But on number 4, B as in boy, a written activity plan may include one or more screen time activities that follow the minimum standard guidelines for screen time, and we're going to get to those in just a second. But it did say, you know, that could be in there now. All right. It does go on to address that if you do have screen time as one of the activities, then you must have an alternate activity for children who do not want to participate in the screen time. All right, so you know, that's always something that we want to look for right there. All right, then it's going to go on 746-2206. What specific activities must your activity plan include? All right, this is where it gets really, really busy. All right. So you must include these daily activities and the approximate time that they will occur on your activity plan. So what time of the day are these things going to happen? A minimum of 2 daily opportunities for outdoor play, all right, in which the children use both small and large muscles. An infant, birth through 12 months, may engage in outdoor play for the amount of time tolerated by the infant. I was very happy with the way they worded that one. All right. Infants 13 months through 17 months of age, toddlers and pre-K children must engage in outdoor play for a minimum of 60 minutes total. And again, you can break that up into 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, but a total of 60 minutes of outdoor play, minimum. All right. Then it goes on to tell you a balance of active or quiet play incorporated both indoor, outdoor. And then this is where we see the big change right here. A minimum of 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous active play for toddlers and a minimum of 90 minutes of moderate to vigorous active play for pre-kindergarten age children. All right. So, 90 minutes of moderate to vigorous active play for all of your children over the age of 3. So your 3 and 4-year-olds. That's a lot. All right. Now I love it. I'm very, very happy with it. All right. But that is a lot right there. You're going to have to really break this down into, maybe 15-minute segments, a few times a day or 20-minute segments, however you're going to get to the 90. You're not going to do all 90 at one time. But I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge for our teachers to get that 90 minutes in there throughout the day. It's good, though. I'm happy with it. I see a lot of questions on Facebook Live about people that are part-time programs, or you're not a full-day program, you're a part-time program. You're going to see in just a little bit, it's going to address that you're going to prorate these times based on the number of hours that you're open. All right, so kind of addressing the questions that are popping up over there. You're going to prorate the time. So if you're only open, 5 or 6 hours a day, then you're going to take the 60 minutes or the 90 minutes and you're going to prorate it, whatever that looks like in your program. All right, that's pretty easy to do, simple math right there. All right, so since those questions were popping up, I decided to go ahead and address that. All right, so, your big takeaway right here, 60 minutes of vigorous to moderate to vigorous active play for toddlers, 90 minutes of moderate to vigorous active play for pre-kindergarten children. All right, so that's exciting to me. Can you imagine how much weight our teachers are going to lose because they're going to be active participants in all of this physical activity? They get to cancel their gym memberships now, because they're going to be so busy and exercising so much in the classroom with the kids. This is going to be great for everybody, right? I would probably go ahead and tell your teachers to start working out now, get on their Peloton if they got one or something, and, because they're going to be busy. So Veronica is asking, wait, does the 90 minutes include outdoors? Yes, it does. All right, so that's a very good question, and that is addressed here in just a little bit too. You can incorporate the 60 minutes and the 90 minutes in your outdoor as well. All right, so that's a good question. All right, so again, the next thing on number 4, caregiver-initiated activities that caregivers direct or chooses that promote movement. So again, a lot of encouragement that's being given by our caregivers right there. All right. There you go. So that's what you got on your activity plan. You may have noticed that under the helpful information boxes, they added a lot of really good stuff in the helpful information. Now remember, anything that is in one of the helpful information boxes is not a standard. So you cannot get cited for anything that's in the helpful information. Those aren't standards. They're helpful information. But they added some really, really good stuff in here. On my page 44 of the proposed rule changes, under the helpful information, is where it's going to talk to you about the part-time programs, but also where it's going to talk about, all of a sudden I can't read this. Sorry, I got to get my old man glasses. Opportunities for active play may overlap with outdoor play and do not need to be counted separately. So going to the question earlier, you can separate those things out right there. All right. Very good. Now, what you need to be aware of is times that you can't go outside due to weather, whether it's raining, it's too hot, or it's too cold. Then you would need to make sure that that active play is happening in the classroom or whatever facilities you have at your program. Some of you have a gym, some of you have a shared space situation, but you would need to make sure that that active play is happening even when they can't go outside. All right, so that's important right there. All right, so next thing on going through our standards is 746-2207. May I use screen time activities with children? Again, I'm so happy with the way they did this. They drafted these rules, again, straight from this book. All right, so no surprise on what was written right here. But it says, for children under the age of 2, no change right here. No screen time. No screen time for children under the age of 2. Screen time has to be related to the planned activities. It has to be age appropriate. And here's the big celebration. Screen time is now limited to 1 hour. 1 hour. It used to be 2 hours. Now it's down to 1 hour. We knew this was coming because that's what was recommended by the American Pediatric Association. And so there you go. This is all of these rules. If you look at the proposed rule changes, This applies to registered homes, licensed centers, and licensed after-school programs. So it's the 744, 746, and 747 book. All right. So I just saw that question pop up on Facebook Live, but it is going to include all of that. Now, here's the other super exciting additions to the standards that I'm excited about. I don't know about you, but I love it. You cannot use screen time during mealtime, snack time, nap time, and rest time. So you cannot have a TV on or have a cartoon on or something during mealtime and during nap time. So that's going to be awesome right there. Cannot have any advertising or violence. Has to be turned off when not in use. And then here's the other thing that I think that was good based on the situation that we're going through right here, is that school-age children who are doing homework on a screen, that homework time will not count as screen time. I had a conversation with someone about this just about 2 weeks ago. We were talking about with our school-age children having to do a lot of schoolwork at our programs, how licensing was going to interpret that with screen time. And so, boom, here it is. It's been addressed. All right. I got a question on Facebook Live. Will we be officially notified when these rules are passed? Yes. Just like the email we got, yesterday or the day before yesterday with these proposed rule changes, you'll be notified when they are passed as well. All right. Yeah. Oh, there goes Lion King, someone says. Yep. That's pretty violent. I have to agree with that right there. Circle of life. All right, but like I said, going back to Jackie's question here, will we be officially notified when these rules pass? Which rules and when these rules pass? Like I said at the beginning of the Facebook Live, all of these proposed rule changes are coming from Senate Bill 952 that was passed by our legislators and signed by the governor last June. Don't expect any changes. I think that these are going to pass pretty much exactly as written because licensing is just doing what they were told by our legislators. All right. So there you go. All right. So we got again some really good helpful information on page 46 or what I have on page 46. But there's some really, really good information on screen time. It's talking about some of the research that is done on screen time and how it affects young children. Really good stuff that I think even some of the adults could benefit from. And we need to put that phone down, put that screen down. There you go. You're going to notice it also is going to say that you cannot use screen time 1 hour before nap time. All right. So 1 hour before nap time, no screen time. And again, that's really good and based on a lot of research. I got a question about what about a Wii with active games that kids take turns on? That would be a video game, so that does count as screen time. So even though the kids are dancing and moving, you still have a screen involved, so that is going to count as screen time right there. That's always been the case right there. All right. Yes, they obviously whenever these rules pass, child care licensing will update the minimum standards and we'll get a new book right there. So they will do that. Sure. All right. Very good. Rita says that she has a question. Okay, but we can wait till the end, or you can ask it now, whichever you want. All right. Yes, you know what? I did my very first live training this week for a faith-based organization. It was my first live in-person training since the end of February, 1st of March, and I was so excited to be in front of real-life people. I miss all of you too, so yes. All right. On 746-2417, what activities must I provide for infants? Just a couple of little updates and changes right here that are pretty awesome. But on number 3, opportunities for physical activity, including supervised tummy time. All right. So that was a good addition right there. They also added that on number 8 for opportunities for large muscle development. The supervised tummy time was included as well. All right. Going over to page 49, 746-2507. What activities must I provide toddlers? What they changed here is number 5, opportunities for moderate to vigorous active play. All right, both indoors and outdoors. So again, we're seeing those moderate to vigorous definitions right there. The other thing I want to point out is number 8, where it says opportunities to develop self-help skills, such as toileting, hand washing, and self-feeding. All right, so they added the self-feeding part right there. There you go. All right. All right, y'all are very, very concerned about how you're going to be notified about the final rules and when and everything. Be patient, breathe, you got this, all right? It is what it is, the power of acceptance, right? All right, on page 51, 746, 2607, what activities must I provide pre-K children, pre-kindergarten children? And again, daily opportunities for outdoor play when weather permits. And then same thing on number 5, opportunities for moderate to vigorous active play, both indoors and outdoors. So the moderate to vigorous is what they've added. Okay, yeah. Rita, I'll talk about your question at the end. All right. What activities must I provide school-age children? 746-2707. All right. What we see right here is, again, daily opportunities for outdoor play when weather permits. And then number 4, opportunities for small muscle development. And I thought this was interesting, that they added at the end of the definition that you can use tape recordings or CD players, which a lot of us have been doing that anyways. Someone was talking about singing and dancing to music. We do that all the time. You can do that with a tape recorder or CD player. We bought tablets for our classroom for our assessments and pictures and whatnot, and so we just loaded all of our music on tablets, and that works really well. They got it all right there on their fingertips. All right. Page 55 of the proposed rule changes, my page 55, 746-2805. This one is huge. All right. What types of discipline and guidance are prohibited? All right. They added number 9, withholding active play or keeping a child inside as a consequence for behavior. All right. Love it. All right. Keeping a child from having active play or keeping a child inside whenever they misbehave, it does not teach a new skill. All right. It's not reasonable. It's not related. It's not respectful. And especially children that are being aggressive, they need their physical activity. So withholding that physical activity is just going to make your situation worse. All right. And so, I'm super happy that they added that. Now, if you want questions, what do we do with these kids? That's a whole nother training that we do. Check out consciousdiscipline.com, or I've got some stuff on my website to help you out with that. All right. It is going to go on page 56 under the helpful information. If you are a program that practices timeout, then obviously, you can do a timeout 1 minute per the child's age, basically, and that's the alternative right here, but it's the 1 minute per the child's age. I'm not a believer in timeout. We don't practice timeout, but I know some of you do. There you go. Okay, off subject question, but I got someone asking about smartwatches. Smartwatches are considered personal use of an electronic device, so that falls into that category of you could be cited by licensing if your teacher is caught on her watch. All right, so there you go. All right, 746-3209 is going to be, must I provide activities for children in nighttime care? I don't know how many of y'all do nighttime care, but it's going to address the screen time activities. Has to meet all of the same screen time that we just went over right there, and again, cannot be used 1 hour before bedtime. All right, I like that one. All right, last big topic of conversation in our proposed rule changes right here is going to be on nutrition. So 746-3301. All right. Melissa, yes, when prorating the times for physical activities, do we assume that 60-90 minutes is for a 12-hour program? Yes. All right. So if you run a part-time program, you're going to prorate it based on that. So that was a very, very good question. That was helpful. Thank you. All right. So what are the basic requirements for meal and snack times? Basically, here's the deal. And again, we knew this was coming. All right. It was passed in our legislation last June. All licensed child care programs in the state of Texas now must follow the CACFP food program guidelines. All right, whether you qualify for it or not, whether you participate or not, you have to follow the CACFP food program guidelines. So for those of you that are already on food program, you got this. All right, this part of it is going to be nothing for you because you're already doing it. Those of you that don't participate in the food program, you're just going to have to beef up your nutrition expectations a little bit, all right? So basically that's what it's going to tell you right there. They made a couple of helpful little charts on how often must you feed children. I thought that was very helpful. They did a good job with that chart. Y'all can take a look at that. Here's the big celebration. When you read Senate Bill 952, and we talked about this in some of our weekend mini conferences, last year and this spring. When you read 952, it says all licensed child care programs must participate in the CACFP food program guidelines, and the centers must ensure that children are meeting all of the nutritional requirements in the MyPlate, guidelines by the federal government. So the big question that we had for licensing last year, and I had 3 different meetings with licensing, and I asked this question: what about programs that don't serve lunches and parents send in the lunches and snacks from home? All right. Are these programs going to be required to make sure that those lunches meet the MyPlate guidelines, and all the nutritional requirements? When I asked this question 3 times last year, I got the answer, we don't know yet. We don't know how we're going to write this yet. And I have a feeling this is one of the reasons why it took so long for these proposed rule changes to come out, because there was a big legal hurdle on how to address this particular issue, because you had 2 different statutes that were contradicting each other right there. All right. Well, here's how it came out. All right. And you'll see this, addressed right here, that those of you that do not prepare food and that food is sent in from home, it's going to remain exactly the same. All right. You're just going to want to make sure that you put into your policies that you are not responsible for, the child meeting their nutritional requirements, that when the parent's sending in the lunch and the snacks, they're taking on that burden right there. So that is a big sigh of relief for a lot of you that don't prepare food, and parents are sending it in from home. This doesn't apply to me at all because we prepare all of our food, but I was even holding my breath for y'all on that one and kind of talking to some of you, preparing you for your upset. But we're not going to be upset now. It worked out in our favor. All right. I just want to point out on page 62, 746, 3311. What are the requirements for a child who requires a special diet or does not want to eat the food that the program serves? This has always been in here, but they just changed some of the wording. You must have written approval from the child's health care professional to serve a special diet. So just want a reminder on that one right there. All right. All right. That is basically it. All right. So there's really not a lot to this. I mean, I think that 90 minutes of physical activity is going to be the biggest challenge for you and your staff, working with your daily schedules and figuring out how to get that 90 minutes in there. It can be done. Most of us are probably already doing it, but the 60 minutes, 90 minutes of active play, in my opinion, is going to be the one thing we're going to need to work on. Everything else with the proposed rule changes, I think it's pretty easy, all right? And it's exactly what we were expecting, and we can get through this. Now, if you go to the website that I posted on Facebook a couple of days ago and then this morning, that is the link to childcare licensing where you can download the proposed rule changes. You'll see at the very bottom of that page, if you have any comments about these proposed rule changes, you can email, and the address is on that link, but I'll give it to you here. It's CCL rules, okay, so childcare licensing rules at hhsc.state.tex.us. And again, if you click on that link to the rule changes, it's right there at the bottom. They also have a physical address that you can send any comments to, on the rule changes. Now, they're only giving us till July 1st to give comment, all right? So they're giving us a very, very short window of time for public comment. So if you got something to say about this stuff, I would say it pretty quickly right there. Again, I have already drafted a sample policy on physical activity to help y'all out. It's on my website, timthetrainer.com. Click on Documents, and you'll see it right up there. It's kind of towards the top on the right. I also posted just helpful our outdoor guidelines on when we take children outside based on the weather and everything. So I went ahead and threw that up there on the website just for helpful information for y'all too. All right. So check out timthetrainer.com, go to Documents, and you can see that. All right. I got a question. When do we think these new rules will go into effect? All right. Maybe September 1st, maybe December 1st. They've got to collect public comment. They'll have to make any amendments. They'll have to put the proposed rule changes out there based on comments again. And then, the council will vote them into effect. I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say end of the year, but it may be as soon as September. We just don't know, all right? But like I've mentioned twice already, I would go ahead and plan on all of these rules passing exactly as proposed because they came from our legislators, all right? You very, very, we don't see that happen very often where proposed rule changes either don't go into effect or don't pass whenever they're in the legislator piece of it. I can't talk today for some reason, but there you go. I think it's a good idea to go ahead and update your policies. It kind of came at perfect timing, honestly. So with us being hopefully post-COVID-19 right now, I'm updating a ton of policies with enhanced health practices and different, arrival and drop-off procedures. And so I'm working on my parent handbook and employee handbook as we speak. And so I'm going to go ahead and make these changes at the same time. Might as well. That way we don't give out new handbooks and then in a couple of months give them out again. So the timing actually is kind of perfect right there in my opinion. All right. I'm just reading a couple of the stuff that's coming in right here. It looks like there's just some conversation going on. All right. Well, there you go. There was nothing on ratios was discussed because there's no change in ratios. All right. Normal child care licensing ratios that have been around for 17 years. That's what you follow right now. The ratios that came out in the governor's health protocol were recommendations. They were not requirements. All right. So there you go. I hope everyone has a wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. It's Father's Day weekend. Yay. So, hopefully your kiddos will get to spend time with their dad and whatnot and everything. So I know I'm super excited. Both of my kids are coming down to spend the weekend with me. So happy Father's Day to everyone out there. Have a great weekend. Email me or give us a call if you have any questions. I will post a worksheet as soon as we are off this Facebook Live. I will post a link to a worksheet that you can complete if you want a certificate for today's Facebook Live. It's $5 to get that certificate. And then there we go. Jennifer is asking me, can we please discuss the repeal? It's not relevant to this Facebook Live topic, but sure. The repeal happened. We don't have to do anything else anymore. You just follow normal minimum standards. Now remember, in the child care minimum standards, the very first thing that's listed under permit holder responsibilities is that you can exceed anything in that book. So if you still want to follow the emergency guidelines that Health and Human Services put out back at the beginning of April, if you still want to follow those emergency guidelines, so for example, not parents dropping off at the front door, parents picking up at the front door, that would be considered exceeding, and you can definitely do that. I would encourage you to say that parents are recommended to drop off and pick up at the front door because remember, parents always have a right to access their children, so you don't want to get into that type of legal trouble. But the only thing you have to follow right now is the good old-fashioned minimum standards. There are no, special stuff out there anymore as of today. Disclaimer, as of today. So all of the emergency orders and health protocols are out now. So there's your little conversation on that. All right. See everyone later. Have a good weekend. Bye.